The following review contains significant plot spoilers. Please watch at your own risk.
On the roof! Trouble!
And this for my brother.
And that's for 009.
After the release of For Your Eyes Only in 1981, Roger Moore was reluctant to return to the role of James Bond as he was over 50 years old. Many considerations were made, and one American actor named James Brolin even screen tested for the role. In the end, the producers managed to get Moore back for the next film, partially due to an unofficial Bond film being made at the same time. This unofficial Bond film was called Never Say Never Again and starred Sean Connery as James Bond. It was basically Kevin McClory's vision of the 1965 Bond film Thunderball. Both that film and the film I am about to review came out almost at the same time. I will only be focusing on the next official Bond film. Never Say Never Again will be reviewed at a later time. Octopussy is the 13th official Bond film and was released in 1983, starring Roger Moore as James Bond 007. The usual gun barrel sequence opens up the film, and we are treated to an action-packed pre-title sequence which involves Bond attempting to destroy a hangar in what appears to be Cuba. We get to see Bond fly an Acrostar jet, which is pretty damn awesome, and in the end he succeeds in his mission. We then get the theme song, titled All Time High, and sung by Rita Coolidge. It is very ballady and a memorable song, but to be honest, I really don't like it. After the song, we get a chilling scene of a man in a clown costume being chased by two knife-throwing twins in Berlin. These twins are Mishka and Grishka, played by David and Anthony Meyer, respectively, and are obviously bad guys. They end up killing the man in the clown costume, but not before he makes it to a British embassy in East Berlin. It is later revealed that this man was 009 and that he was carrying a fake Fabergé egg. MI6 suspects Soviet involvement, so they send Bond to investigate after seeing a real Fabergé egg appear at an auction. Bond goes to the auction to find out who the seller is and ends up swapping the real egg with the fake. He has a bidding war with exiled Afghan prince Kamal Khan, played by Louis Jourdan, who ends up buying the fake egg for £500,000. Bond follows Khan to his palace in India, where he defeats him in a game of backgammon. Bond escapes with his Indian contact Vijay, played by Vijay Amritraj, as they are chased by Khan's bodyguard Gobinda, played by Kabir Bedi. A bit later, Bond meets one of Khan's associates, a hot girl named Magda, played by Christina Wayborn, who seduces him. After engaging in some sex, Magda steals the real Fabergé egg while Gobinda captures Bond and takes him to Khan's palace. Bond is placed in a cell where he easily escapes with one of Q's nifty gadgets, and discovers that Khan is working with a renegade Soviet general named General Orlov, played by Steven Berkoff. Orlov is seeking to expand Soviet borders into Europe. Bond later escapes from the palace and is chased by Khan and his men, who ride on elephants and carry rifles. There are many cringe-worthy scenes during this chase, such as Bond swinging from a vine, and a Tarzan yell being placed in the background. Bond, of course, escapes and later infiltrates a different palace where he meets Octopussy, played by Maud Adams. Octopussy is a wealthy woman who leads the octopus cult, of which Magda is a part of. She also has relations with Khan and kind of works with him. In Octopussy's palace, Bond finds out that Orlov has been supplying Khan with priceless Soviet treasures, replacing them with replicas, while Khan has been smuggling the real ones into the West via Octopussy's circus troupe. Orlov is planning to meet Khan at Karl Marxstadt in East Germany, where the circus is scheduled to perform. Bond later seduces Octopussy and leaves the palace, where he finds out that Vijay has been murdered by Khan's men. After this, Bond goes to East Germany, infiltrates the circus, and finds out that Orlov replaced the Soviet treasures with a nuclear warhead, primed to go off during a circus show at a U.S. air base in West Germany. The explosion would trigger Europe into seeking disarmament, in the belief that the bomb was a U.S. one that went off by accident, leaving its borders open to Soviet invasion. Bond finds one of the knife twins, Mishka, and drops a cannon on top of his head, killing him. A chase scene later ensues, and Bond boards the moving circus train. Meanwhile, General Orlov is shot and killed while trying to cross the border. Bond is seen by Khan, who orders Gobinda to go after him. Bond is chased atop the speeding train and is thrown off along with the other twin, Grishka. Grishka chases Bond into the woods, where he almost kills him, but Bond takes one of the twins' knives and stabs him, getting full revenge for 009. Bond later steals a car and speeds off to the Air Force Base. Bond gets there, being chased by many police officers, and sneaks into a clown costume. Bond sees Octopussy there and convinces her that she was betrayed by Khan, who was supposed to smuggle the Soviet treasures for her. Bond disarms the warhead with her help, with only half a second left, and saves the circus from being obliterated. Bond and Octopussy return to India and launch an assault on Khan's palace. Khan and Gobinda flee and kidnap Octopussy in the process. Bond follows them as they attempt to escape in a plane and jumps onto the fuselage, clinging onto it for dear life. Bond manages to disable one of the plane's engines as they are hundreds of feet in the air, and Khan orders Gobinda to go out and get rid of him. Bond manages to dispatch Gobinda, who falls off the plane to his death. Bond rescues Octopussy as both of them jump out of the plane and onto a cliff. Khan ends up getting killed when he crashes the plane into a mountain. After this, we get a scene with General Gogol, once again played by Walter Gotell, where he talks with M about the return of the jewelry. The film ends with Bond making love to Octopussy aboard a private boat in India. Roger Moore gives a great performance as usual and plays it more comedic, as the film overall is much more comedic than the serious For Your Eyes Only. Moore also looks much older than he did 2 years before, and definitely should have quit the role by now. Regardless, he does a good job. This film is special as there are two main villains. The primary one is Kamal Khan, and the secondary one is General Orlov. Louis Jourdan does a great job as Khan, and manages to be charismatic, yet menacing as well. Steven Berkoff gives a zany and over-the-top performance as General Orlov, which I really liked. To be honest, Orlov should have been the main villain, because he is such an unintentionally funny and awesome guy. Moneypenny and Q return, with Moneypenny getting an assistant and Q getting more screen time. This assistant is named Penelope Smallbone, and I guess the producers intended for her to be a replacement for Moneypenny, as Lois Maxwell was getting pretty old at the time, but this character is never seen again after this brief little scene. M returns, being played by Robert Brown, who played a character named Admiral Hargreaves in The Spy Who Loved Me. He is definitely no Bernard Lee, but is a suitable replacement and does well. Our main ally this time is Vijay. Vijay is a very likable guy and helps Bond out a lot during a chase throughout the streets of India. I found that his death scene was very dark, even for a Roger Moore Bond film, and it kinda still bothers me to this day. We get a few henchmen, including Gobinda and the knife-throwing twins Mishka and Grishka. Gobinda is a tall Indian man who is scary-looking and powerful. He makes a pretty good henchman, but not the best. I found that Mishka and Grishka were much better henchmen and quite memorable as well. Surprisingly, I believe that they are two of the better henchmen in the series and should have been used more in the film. Our main Bond girl this time is the title character Octopussy, played by Maud Adams. If you may remember, Maud Adams played a Bond girl before in 1974's The Man with the Golden Gun. She played Andrea Anders, the villain's mistress, who ends up getting killed. I don't really know why they casted her again in the series, but she makes an alright Bond girl. I find Magda much more attractive and a stronger character. In one scene near the end of the film, Magda is shown beating up some of Khan's henchmen, which is pretty cool. John Glenn would return to direct, but instead of making a serious Bond film, he went for the traditional Roger Moore Bond film. While this isn't necessarily a bad thing, I would have much preferred a more serious film. John Barry would make another return as composer for the film, and his score is great as always. One track that stands out is the one that plays during the assault on Khan's palace. One of the main gripes that I have with this film is how confusing the plot is. At first we have the plot with the Fabergé egg and the jewels, but that gets quickly tossed aside halfway through the film, and we get a plot that involves a nuclear disaster. I think the producers should have just stuck with one of the plots and focused on it, instead of adding new stuff. I only just managed to understand everything in this film after doing some research. The action scenes in India are decent enough, but pick up once Bond goes to East Germany. The scenes with the trains are very well put together. Also, the PTS is pretty damn good. The finale with the assault on Khan's palace is pretty lackluster compared to the previous few, but the climax of Bond holding onto a plane way up in the sky is pretty crazy and awesome. I also know that there are lots of complaints about Bond dressing up in a clown costume to defuse a bomb, but to be honest, it never really bothered me that much. The locations are a hit and miss. While we finally get to see India in a Bond film, I didn't really particularly find it an exciting locale. I definitely preferred the scenes in East Germany. The thing I find about this film is that it isn't really as memorable as some of the other Bond films. That could be because this is my least watched Bond film. When I was little, in about the year 2000, this was the last Bond film I saw out of all of the ones that were out at the time. All I could remember was that chilling scene with the man in the clown suit running through the woods. There are some good things about this film, such as the second half of the film and of course a wide variety of bad guys, but there are also many bad things too. Overall, though, this is a solid Bond adventure and is recommended. I give Octopussy a 7 out of 10. Now here are the 5 top things I liked in this film. The scenes in East Germany are fun to watch and lots of fun. BJ is a likable and fun ally. The pre-title sequence is one of the better ones in the series. Christina Wayborn as Magda is hot. And finally, there is a great variety of villains and henchmen. Now for my 5 dislikes. Roger Moore is much older looking in this film. The 2 plots end up being convoluted and confusing. The Tarzan yell is distracting and kind of annoying. The action scenes in India are kind of bland. And finally, this film as a whole is much more comedic than some of the previous Bond films, which might be a turn-off for some people. Well, that's it for this week. Next week we will finally finish up the Roger Moore era with his final film. Will it be a good film to go out on? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.